September. Reggie Squirrel. Autumn had arrived, and it was Reggie Squirrel's 7th birthday. Reggie woke up early and set off excitedly to visit the stag beetle. He knocked loudly on Stanley's door, but no one answered. Berry and Balthazar's houses were empty too.
No one's at home. Who can I celebrate my birthday with?
He sobbed to himself.
Hi there, happy birthday,
shouted Harry Hedgehog. Your friends told me to take you for a ride while they prepare your present.
So that's why no one's at home,
Reggie said, smiling again. He sat in the hedgehog cart and they set off. In the meantime, the centipede busily raked the leaves up and the woodworms wriggled about in them.
That's enough of that. I need to clear the leaves from the path,
the centipede said.
You could pick the litter up because we should look after nature. Okay, we'll help,
the woodworms whistled. Then they saw Harry Hedgehog and Reggie Squirrel, and they waved at the birthday boy when the hedgehog cart passed them. It was the afternoon by the time they got back to Reggie Squirrel's home.
Happy birthday!
All the forest friends shouted with glee. Reggie Squirrel saw that the pals had bandaged the oak tree.
You've made my tree better,
Reggie said with a tear in his eye.
Hooray for Reggie Squirrel!
Shouted a band of squeaky little voices, and the fireflies appeared high up above.
We've made you 7 lanterns for your 7th birthday. They're beautiful,
said Reggie, clapping his paws together. At that point, Berry and Dolly handed the hazelnut cake they had made to Reggie. And while they were eating, Zephyr made an announcement.
A 7th birthday is an important thing because 7 is a special number. There are 7 colours in the rainbow. A dragon has 7 heads, and there are 7 days in a week. There are 7 dwarfs in the story about Snow White, and there are 7 notes on a musical scale. You still haven't seen your main present, said the little flower beetle as he hopped around. Have you found the hot air balloon? Reggie asked with a surprised smile. We found it and fixed it, said a proud Berry. Come on, we'll take you for a flight. Hooray! Reggie Squirrel cried, and he hopped happily into the balloon's basket. They flew high above the tiny houses and had a super view of the forest from the sky. Then the stars appeared, and Reggie stared in delight at the twinkling night sky. It's been a busy day, hasn't it? Asked Dolly. Yes, it's been a busy and brilliant birthday, Reggie Squirrel agreed with a grin. Good night, the little friends shouted, and the squirrel climbed sleepily back into his house, cuddled up in his little bed, and soon fell fast asleep.
Bubble has hiccups. One fine day in autumn, Berry, Dolly, Balthazar, Flutter, Stanley and Bubble set off on a walk to the waterfall. Bubble suddenly started to hiccup. Balthazar offered him his water bottle.
Have a drink of water. That'll stop it.
Bubble took a couple of gulps, but his hiccups still didn't stop. Have a bite to eat, Dolly told him. That'll stop it. Bubble bit into his bread roll, but his hiccups still didn't stop. Hold your breath for a while. That'll stop it, Flutter advised. Bubble held his breath for a long while, but his hiccups still didn't stop. In the end, Stanley came up with a plan to make Bubble jump. He hurried off and hid behind a big tree. Just as Bubble was walking past, he jumped out with a shout from behind the tree and gave the flower beetle a fright. In fact, he was so shocked he fell over. And his hiccups stopped. But now Bubble was cross with Stanley.
That was a very mean thing to do. I don't jump out at you from behind trees.
I only wanted to help. I stopped your hiccups.
I still don't like it when people make me jump,
Bubble grumbled. All right, I won't help you next time, the stag beetle shouted back. They all carried on their way and soon arrived at the waterfall.
It looks so lovely,
Bubble shouted, and he ran so fast towards the waterfall that he slipped right in. Stanley caught him by the arms at the very last minute and pulled him out of the water.
Thank you,
Bubble snivelled.
I'm sorry I got so cross.
We need to get home as quickly as we can because Bubble is soaked to the skin. He could catch a chill, Dolly said with concern. They then all heard thunderous footsteps from behind the trees and an enormous lizard appeared right before them.
Don't be afraid of me,
he said.
Which way are you going? I'll happily give you a ride on my back.
The forest friends were delighted by the idea and happily hopped onto the lizard's back. And as they made their way back home, Bubble slowly started to hiccup again. I'm definitely not going to make you jump again. Hiccups can stop just as easily on their own. That's exactly what happened. By the time the lizard arrived back at Bubble's house, his hiccups had completely stopped. The little beetle said goodbye to all his pals. After Bubble, the lizard took Stanley and Balthazar to their houses. The stag beetle and the bumblebee thanked him for the ride and waved him happily on his way. Soon after that, they arrived at Dolly's house, where the ladybird girl said goodbye to her friends and hopped off the lizard's back, shortly followed by Berry. Flutter was now the final passenger, and it was getting dark by the time the lizard delivered her back home.
Thanks so much for all your help, lizard,
Flutter said, before stepping into her house, where she went straight to bed. Sunflowers. Berry and Dolly planted sunflower seeds in the spring and watered the seeds until little shoots soon appeared. The shoots grew into little plants that grew into big plants. Then buds appeared that opened into lovely yellow flowers in the summer. Hooray! The friends cheered when they saw the lovely flowers. Berry noticed that the flowers pointed one way in the morning and another in the afternoon.
Look, Dolly, they're turning their heads.
That's because they always turn to face the sun. That's why they're called sunflowers. When the sun went down, the sunflowers hung their heads and went to sleep. All the forest friends were woken the next morning by shouts of panic. "Oh dear, what's happened? Our lovely sunflowers!" Dolly cried. "Who could have done such a terrible thing?" Berry wept. "Someone has chewed through the stems of our sunflowers." Flutter washed their wounds with fresh dew, and Dolly bandaged them all with soft blades of grass. The sunflowers slowly started to smile again. The friends all gathered in Balthazar's house to decide what to do next. "What are we going to do?" Berry sobbed. "Someone needs to stand guard at night. I'll go first," said Dolly bravely. The little ladybird hid quietly behind the bush and kept a close eye on the sunflowers. She didn't have to wait for very long. A hamster soon appeared and started to chew at the stems of the sunflowers. Dolly jumped out from her hiding place and shouted, "Shoo!" This surprised the hamster and he ran away. He didn't come back again that night. Flutter guarded the sunflowers the next night, and then Balthazar, and then Stanley. Soon it was Berry's turn. The little snail hid quietly behind the bush and waited. He waited and waited until he eventually fell asleep. He wasn't even woken by the sound of the hamster chewing at the sunflower stems. "Oh dear, I must have fallen asleep. I didn't guard the sunflowers," Berry sobbed when he saw the sadly sagging sunflowers the following morning. "Berry fell asleep. He slept while the hamster chewed the stems again." "Why do you all look so sad?" asked Dr. Owl. Dolly told him what had happened to the sunflowers. "I think you should talk to the hamster. Ask him not to hurt the sunflowers," Dr. Owl suggested.
There he is. He's asleep in the bush,
Berry whispered to the others. The noise woke the sleeping hamster. The hamster looked scared of the friends and the friends felt frightened of the hamster. "There's no need to be scared of us. We just wanted to ask you not to chew our sunflowers."
"But then what will I eat?"
the hamster told them. "We'll bring you plenty of apples and carrots to nibble on. Where do you live?" the little snail asked.
"I haven't got a house of my own,"
the hamster said sadly.
"You haven't got a house?"
Balthazar repeated in surprise.
"Then we'll build you one."
Dolly brought apples, Berry brought seeds, Flutter brought raisins, Balthazar brought dandelion leaves and Stanley brought carrots.
"My new house is really super,"
the hamster said with a cheery smile.
"and thank you so much for all the yummy food."
The hamster never chewed the sunflower stems again, and they smiled happily at Berry and Dolly and all their friends for the rest of the summer. Witches. It was a warm summer day and Berry, Dolly and their friends were talking about witches.
"Do you really think witches exist?"
Balthazar the bee asked.
"And they fly around on broomsticks at night?" "I'm not sure,"
Berry mumbled. Then Berry and Dolly decided to walk home. "Why don't we come back here later? We might see some witches," the ladybird suggested. They packed themselves a tasty picnic and went back to the meadow. They stared at the sky for a long time, but nothing happened. "Come on, Dolly, let's go home. I don't think witches are real." Dolly stopped and stared. "Berry, I just heard a strange noise from behind that tree. Oh, Berry, the leaves are moving."
The two friends hugged each other in fright. A witch suddenly flew out and Berry and Dolly screamed. Then another witch appeared in the sky. "Run, Berry! Run and hide!" And they ran as fast as they could. The two of them hid behind a bush. "Oh, Dolly, it's too bad our friends aren't here with us." Just then the two witches landed, took off their capes and hats, and turned to smile.
"But your friends are here."
"It was us, Flutter and Balthazar," they said. This made Dolly very mad. "Really? You were the witches? It was very mean of you to scare us like that."
"It was only meant to be a joke,"
Balthazar explained. Berry was angry too. "It was a very bad joke. You'll be sorry you did this." And the two friends stomped off home. "We should play a joke on them now, Berry."
"Do you think we should scare them too?"
"That's it," Dolly exclaimed. "I've got an idea." Flutter and Balthazar were left standing in the meadow.
"What should we do now?"
They felt a bit ashamed. Maybe it wasn't such a good idea after all. Berry and Dolly ran to the ladybird's house and dressed up as little devils. They put black clothes on with black hats and added red horns to make themselves look like real devils. "Hurry, Dolly!" Berry was impatient. "I can see them coming." They quickly jumped behind a bush and waited for Flutter and Balthazar to get close. Then they jumped out and scared the living daylights out of their friends. "Help!
"Devils!"
the butterfly and the bee screamed.
"Now do you see how bad it is when someone scares you?"
the little snail said.
"What? Is that you, Berry? That was a really nasty thing to do."
"Nasty thing? Your witches were much scarier," Berry shouted. "That's not true. The devils were scarier." "That's enough," Dolly told them off. "Stop this silly arguing. Let's be friends. We promise never to do it again. But you have to promise not to scare us either." "You're right," the others nodded. "Do you want to try the devil's hats on?" Dolly asked.
"Yes, please. You can try our witches' hats on if you like and sit on our broomsticks."
"Whippy! This is super!" Berry whooped. "We're flying just like witches."
"Yes,"
Balthazar agreed.
"like real witches."
February. Fancy dress at Stanley's. February had arrived and it was nearly time for Carnival. The little forest friends were discussing what costumes they would have. "It's a shame that the fancy dress ball can only have one winner," Bubble announced unexpectedly. "Last year, Sophia won with her sunshine costume and it was very pretty. But I also like Stanley's dice costume and Eddie's chef's outfit." "I agree," Dolly added. "What if we change the competition this year? And we dress up in groups? The girls could be angels and the boys devils. Or we could be fruit and vegetables," the ladybird girl explained. "What a splendid idea!" And so they agreed that the boys would be fruit and the girls would be vegetables. Then they decided who would be what. The boys: Stanley, pear; Eddie, peach; Balthazar, grape; Berry, apple; Bubble, strawberry; Morris, fig; the woodworm, cherry; Charlie, pineapple; Frank, lemon; the firebug, apricot; Alfonso, banana; Dr. Owl, melon; The fireflies, blackberry, raspberry, blueberry, blackcurrant and plum. The girls, Dolly, carrot, Flutter, potato, Leapy, onion, Zafia, squash, Rosita, cabbage, Iris, broccoli, Betty, aubergine, the Ant Queen, pumpkin, Odette, cucumber, the Star Girl, lettuce, the fireflies, beetroot, radish, pepper, tomato and kohlrabi. A week passed and the day of the ball arrived. The little beetles arrived in their new costumes at Stanley's house. Dr. Owl's watermelon costume was a great success, but they all loved each other's costumes. Then Snail, Sam and Katie arrived.
Hi, we decided to come along too.
But Snail, Sam and Katie lived on a faraway island, and they had no way of knowing that everyone had come as a fruit or vegetable. Sam was dressed as a basketball, and Katie had come in a pencil costume.
We need to alter your costumes,
Stanley stated. Alfonso immediately knew what to do.
I know! The yellow pencil can be a sweet corn, and if we take the black stripes off the basketball, it can be an orange,
he suggested.
That's a super idea,
the friends agreed, and they quickly transformed the new guests' costumes. Now Katie could join the vegetables with her sweet corn costume, and Snail Sam's orange outfit meant he could join the fruit. They danced until late in the evening, until Christopher the Canary arrived with a big basket of donuts. They all ate a donut and then set off home. Stanley laughed at the sight of the flying watermelon. Then Dr. Owl shouted, "Look, snowdrops!" Alfonso and Bubble rushed over and stared in wonderment at the first flowers of spring.
The board game. It was a lovely spring day and Berry was playing a board game with Flutter. They had to follow a long trail from a mouse to a piece of cheese.
The winner is the first one to reach the cheese,
the little butterfly girl explained. Berry started the game. He threw the dice and moved his counter. Then it was Flutter's turn. She threw the dice and moved.
I won,
the little snail boy shouted when his counter reached the piece of cheese.
Okay, you won. Let's play it again.
Berry won the second game too.
I won. I'm the winner again,
the little snail boy shouted with pride.
Let's play another game.
They started to play the game again. This time, Flutter was the first to reach the piece of cheese.
I won, Berry. Now I'm the winner,
the little butterfly girl announced with a grin. Berry was so upset that he hid under the pine tree, where he threw the dice so that Flutter couldn't see.
I threw a 6,
but Flutter told him off.
That's not fair, Berry. You need to throw the dice where I can see it.
No.
Throw the dice again, Berry.
This time he threw a 2. He got left behind and Flutter won that game.
That's not fair. I want to win. That's cheating. But Berry, that's the point of a board game. One player wins and then the other wins. You can't win every time.
But I can. I want to win every game, Berry whined, and he was so cross that he threw the board game down on the ground.
OK, if that's how you want it, you can play on your own. And she flew away. It'll be better on my own, Berry grumbled. He threw the dice and moved his counter. He threw again and moved his counter. And he won one game after another. But he soon got bored of the game. He tried playing the game with his teddy. But his teddy wasn't a very exciting opponent. Berry eventually set off to look for Flutter again. It was no good on my own, he thought sadly to himself. He found Flutter playing cards with Dolly, Bubble and Balthazar in the meadow. Can I play too? Berry asked shyly. Well, Berry, you can play, but you're not guaranteed to win. And I wouldn't like you to throw the cards down as well. Flutter eventually shouted after Berry. Berry, you can come and play, but only if you promise not to get cross if you don't win. I promise, Berry agreed and ran to join his pals. They sat playing cards until it got dark. Berry won one game, Flutter won another, and Bubble, Balthazar and Dolly all won one too. Berry was so happy to be playing with his friends that he forgot to get angry when he didn't win. Stanley the stag beetle flew by and shouted down to them. Look, I've carved a roasting stick. Come on, let's make a fire and roast apples. They all seemed to like the idea. Eddie the potato beetle joined them. They all helped to build a fire, sliced apples up and put them on sticks and roasted them over the glowing embers. The little gang of friends ate up all the apples they cooked. Berry gave his last piece of apple to Flutter. He really wanted to say something nice to the little butterfly girl, but all he eventually said was, Here, this is for you. When all the apples had gone, the friends pushed their sticks into the fire and drew pictures with them in the dark night sky. The Carnival. Winter was nearly over and the forest friends were sitting in Dolly's house. It's time we started getting ready for the carnival, Flutter the butterfly said. What are you going to dress up as? Berry asked. It's a secret, Flutter answered. You have to keep your costume a secret so that we can surprise each other at the carnival.
You're right. Let's go home and get started. We've only got a few days left,
Balthazar said. Berry quickly made up his mind. He decided to dress up as a mushroom. He used a white sheet for a cape and made a hat out of a red bowl. He painted white dots on the bowl. Dolly made a flower costume. She cut leaves out of green paper and sewed them on a green blanket. That was her dress, and she made petals out of purple paper. Balthazar the bee and Betty the bumblebee worked together. Balthazar dressed up as a devil and Betty dressed up as an angel. Bubble the baby beetle sat in his hammock and started to make his lion costume. The lights were on in every home in the forest on the night before the carnival. Everybody was working on their costume and busy preparing for the celebrations the following day. Then the big day arrived. The forest friends decided to have the carnival at Stanley's house. They all worked hard and decorated the stag beetle's home with coloured streamers and balloons. While this was going on, Rosita the rose beetle was busy making delicious cakes at her house. Dolly, Leapy and Eddie the potato beetle all lent a hand. Then the time came for them all to put their costumes on. Stanley dressed up as a dice and waited for his friends. The first to arrive were Berry and Dolly. He was dressed as a mushroom and she was dressed as a flower. Then Balthazar came as a little devil and Betty as an angel, with Flutter in a crab costume. Leapy looked just like a cactus. Bubble was dressed as a lion. Eddie was a chef. And Rosita was a bunch of grapes. Her dress was covered in shiny balloons. The firefly was dressed as a pencil. And the flea was an octopus. Sam came as a soldier. And one of the little ants was dressed up as a pancake. Suddenly, Zephyr the dragonfly burst in crying, "It's gone! My beautiful princess dress has disappeared! I washed it and I hung it out to dry, but the wind blew it away!" Zephyr sobbed, and the others tried to comfort her.
I don't need my soldier hat. I've got a sword,
Sam Snail suggested. "No, that's for boys! I had a lovely princess dress, but the wind blew it away." "We'll make you a new costume," Leapy said. "A sun costume." Zephyr liked this idea very much. "This yellow curtain will make a great cape," Dolly shouted. "And these yellow pieces of paper can be the sun's rays," Stanley said, and took some of the streamers down. They cut, glued, sewed and stitched, and the beautiful sun costume was ready in no time.
I can lend you my little lantern. A pencil doesn't really need a lantern,
laughed the firefly.
Thank you,
Zephyr said. She was so happy she blushed. The forest friends danced and sung all night and agreed Zephyr had the most special costume of all. As what could be more special than a sun that shone at night? Friends. It was a super sunny day and Dolly the ladybird sat staring out of the window. "I'm going to eat breakfast," she thought, "and then I'll go for a walk in the meadow." She decided to take her wheelbarrow with her. "I wonder if I'll find something interesting to take home in my wheelbarrow," she thought to herself. "Goodness me," said Dolly. "What a lovely red cherry. That's just perfect for my lunch." She tried to lift the cherry into her wheelbarrow, but it was far too heavy. Too heavy for one little ladybird. Just then, Berry the snail appeared.
Why the sad face, ladybird?
Asked Berry. "I can't lift this cherry into my wheelbarrow," Dolly replied. "Don't cry, I'll help you," Berry said with a smile, and the two of them picked the cherry up with no trouble at all. Dolly set straight off home with the juicy cherry. Now it was Berry who looked sad. "Don't you want to share the cherry with me?" the snail said, and stamped his little foot. "I did help you." "But I found it first," Dolly snapped. "You're not having any, it's mine." Berry was very upset. The two of them started to fight over the cherry. "It's mine, it's mine," shouted Dolly. "That's not fair," Berry shouted back. They pushed and pulled the cherry until it split clean in two. Berry and Dolly plopped to the ground. They were very surprised when a green grub crawled out of the cherry.
"What have you done to my cherry?"
he grumbled.
"That cherry was my home." "Oh, don't look so upset,"
the grub said.
"I know where we can find plenty more. You can eat cherries while I find a new home for myself."
Dolly helped the grub into her wheelbarrow, and they all set off to look for the cherry tree. When they arrived, they found the ground around the cherry tree was covered in ripe red fruit. Berry and Dolly jumped for joy. The grub fell fast asleep while Berry and Dolly munched away on fresh cherries, and the time soon flew by. It was getting late, so they decided to go home, but this time with 2 cherries, one for Dolly and one for Berry. The sun was setting by the time they reached Berry's house. They took his cherry out of the wheelbarrow and said goodbye. Berry went inside and waved to Dolly from the window. Berry soon fell fast asleep after such an exciting day. The little snail dreamt about playing in cherries with Dolly and eating until their tummies were full. Then Dolly got back home and went straight to bed. From that day on, Berry and Dolly were the best of friends.